Cafe Racer seat. Today we are going to talk about how you can modify your seat in order to get an improved riding position, to lower your center of gravity, give you a little bit more control over the bike. Believe it or not, that little bit of change in height between the top tank and where you sit actually improves the way you can control the bike on turns and cornering. And it also helps with just the general weight distribution of your riding style. So we're going to jump into how I made it. So first things first, I took apart an Onyx seat, ripped off the vinyl, took out a million staples, and then I actually used my WorkSharp knife sharpener to smooth out the foam. I tried a couple things. I tried a serrated kitchen knife, a non-serrated kitchen knife. I tried picking at the foam and made a huge mess. But ultimately what I found worked best was a handheld belt sander. You might have luck with a stationary belt sander of some type, but keeping constant motions, and you can see here I'm smoothing out all the mistakes I made before. We'll talk a little bit about how you can avoid some unsightly marks in your new vinyl cover. This comes from good vinyl selection. So what I did is I chose a high quality vinyl that was actually foam backed. You can see here I smoothed it out quite a bit with the sander. This is the vinyl that I used. I got it from Amazon. So you can see that it is foam backed. It is a thick vinyl used for upholstery projects. So now we want to measure out the exact vinyl size. This is very much a measure twice, cut once situation. You want to make sure you have enough to wrap around and also to give you something to pull on. When you upholster a seat, you really want to make sure that everything is taut, and so you don't get any bad lines. And this is something I learned the hard way. I had to make a couple seats to get it right, but there's a lot of weird stretch marks that you get if you don't pull it taut enough. So here I'm measuring it out, making sure that it's exactly right before I put in the first staples. Every time you put in a staple, you basically sacrifice the integrity of the fabric. So you really want to make sure that you're not putting in staples that you then have to pull out. You're going to put in a couple in the top just to give you a sense of shape here. And a good quality staple gun is key. The Onyx seat pans are made of a thick plastic. You need something that can go through it and not crumple the staple at the surface. Now, one of the mistakes that I made in the process of making this seat is that I made a lot of cuts. Really what I should have done is left a lot of excess fabric. This is good in case you make a mistake and don't make something tight enough. You can then grab onto that excess fabric. But I was really eager to get this seat together, and it turned out okay, but I would say that that was in large part due to some luck on this one. Now the hardest part is going around the bump in the back. Vinyl fabric that is stiff and rigid is higher quality and more abrasion resistant, but one of its downfalls is that it doesn't wrap around corners of a surface well. And being that the Onyx seat pan is curved at the back, that's definitely a challenge. It requires some good pull force. Now it's finally starting to look like a seat. Now there's a couple lines in the fabric. You can fix that by retensioning, so pulling out a staple, pulling it taut again. You can also fix it when you're done with a gentle wave of a heat gun. That'll pull the vinyl fabric tight, but be careful because you can easily melt through it and ruin the whole thing. Other than that, that's pretty much how I made this seat. It's not the most comfortable seat from a cushioning standpoint, but I think it looks really, really good, and it definitely changes the way you ride. Typically, when you ride a stock Onyx seat, your butt sits way too high, and it actually makes the ride feel a little more unstable. Here's a shot of the finished product. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.